Welcome back to Table for One, the series for solo cooks who want to make their meals a little bit extra special. This week we are making my new favourite single-serve dessert, a Dutch baby filled with strawberries and ice cream. It is so simple to make, completely delicious, and I would say the perfect summer pudding. This week's recipe is called a Dutch baby, which is the cutest name ever. There's a couple of different theories as to where this originates. Some people say that it's an American concept. Other people say that it's inspired by German pancakes, with the word Dutch actually coming from the word Deutsch. It's also not dissimilar to a French crepe in its batter, but the process is a little bit different, and this is actually made in the oven as opposed to being on the hob. What I think this is most similar to is a Yorkshire pudding. I'm from Yorkshire, so I am well versed with Yorkshire puddings, and I think that this recipe is actually very, very similar, both in its ingredients and in the method that you're cooking it. Though we think of Yorkshire puddings as a savoury food, and often they obviously are eaten with a roast dinner or sausages, often cooked meats, they were also traditionally eaten with jam at the end of a meal. So you would have your savoury Yorkshire pudding and then your sweet Yorkshire pudding to finish. So it's really not that far off at all. This is actually a really handy tip if you're ever making Yorkshire puddings, is that it's equal parts milk, flour and eggs. So essentially what you would want to do is crack your egg into a vessel, see the volume of that, and then you measure out the same volume of milk and flour. So if it was 200 millilitres of eggs, you want 200 millilitres of milk and 200 millilitres of flour. So that's a really handy tip if you're making Yorkshire puddings. But we are not making Yorkshire puddings, we are making a Dutch baby. So it has plain flour, milk, an egg, and then where this differs from a Yorkshire pudding batter is that it has a little bit of sugar and a little bit of vanilla. In this recipe, there is slightly less flour, so it's a slightly higher egg and milk ratio, which means that the overall batter, and therefore the finished pancake, is slightly lighter, and I would say slightly crisper, slightly thinner, which maybe just means that there's more room for filling. We're going to crack an egg into the jug, and then we're just going to use a tablespoon and a teaspoon to measure out the milk, the flour, and the sugar. I accidentally just got a bit of eggshell in the egg. The best way to get eggshell out of an egg is to use eggshells. Kind of in the way that only diamonds can cut diamonds, only eggshell can get eggshell out of the egg. So we have one egg, then we want to add 2 tablespoons of plain flour. I think when you see the finished result and you see how puffy this pancake is, you might be surprised that it's not self-raising flour or plain flour mixed with baking powder or bicarbonate of soda. But the reason that this pancake puffs up so much is actually because of a reaction between the egg and the hot oil in the pan. So 2 tablespoons of flour and then 4 tablespoons of milk. And if you do the flour first, you can use the milk to clean the spoon, as opposed to doing the milk first and then having all the flour get stuck to the spoon. Next up, we have 1 teaspoon of sugar. So this isn't an overly sweet batter, and actually you can fill a Dutch baby with a savoury filling as well. So it's really, really good with cream cheese and smoked salmon, or maybe some fresh vegetables and creme fraiche. But even if you have the sugar in the batter, it's not that sweet that it would make a difference. And then finally, just half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then all you have to do is whisk that together. So you could use a fork, a mini whisk, a big balloon whisk if it fits in your jug. But I'm going to use my little milk frother, which actually just works so well and brings the perfect amount of lightness to the batter. So the batter is whisked and frothed up nicely. I'm just going to set it to the side for a couple of minutes while we prepare the pan. So as I say, this differs from a German pancake or something like a crepe, because rather than being cooked on the hob, this is cooked in the oven, and traditionally in a cast iron skillet, which is exactly what I have here, except this one is the perfect size for one person. I think I've said this before, but I get lots and lots of questions about what size this skillet is. This one is about 6.5 inches in diameter. I would say you want anything from 6.5 to 8 inches, and then it's a really versatile size for baking and for cooking savoury dishes. As I say, it's really important here that we have hot fat in the pan, because this is what's going to cause the pancake to rise. I'm using butter just because I want the flavour of butter, but if you don't want to use butter and you want to use oil, then use a neutral oil like a vegetable oil, or you could use a coconut oil, but I probably wouldn't use an olive oil for this one. So 1 teaspoon of butter in the pan, and then this goes straight into the oven to heat up the whole skillet and to melt the butter so it gets really quite hot before we then pour in the batter. So the batter is melted, the pan is really, really hot. We're gonna go straight in with the batter and then get it straight back in the oven. So that's going to be in the oven for around 15 minutes, which is the perfect amount of time to prep our filling. You can choose whatever you like. Any sort of berry would be delicious. I'm going to go with some fresh strawberries because they're in season, so these are beautiful British strawberries. And then I'm also going to add some maple syrup, some icing sugar, and potentially a little scoop of vanilla ice cream because why the heck not? I just think that cooking can't get more joyous than this. Watching something transform from a little liquid batter to this puffy, gorgeous, craggly little pancake. It's got gorgeous little crispy edges. The inside is slightly fluffier and it's got the perfect well to fill with our beautiful strawberries. Also, because it's got sugar in the batter, there's slight sort of crispy caramelization on top, which you wouldn't get in a Yorkshire pudding. This is just because it has the sugar in. It's just gorgeous. And that is my Dutch baby done. The most gorgeous single serve dessert. So easy to make, so simple, but tell me that doesn't look completely delicious. Time to dig in. Wow, that is so good. And it tastes like summer with the strawberries and ice cream. That's so good. Deutsch, and then it's a...
Deutsch?
Burning my hand.
No, stop.
No, it's fine. Another chefy kitchen tip. Did you hear that massive burp?
I know, she was...
Sorry, I can't do with your toes.
No!
This is just so exciting. We're giddy. Okay,